What's up, guys? Check this out. This is the Seagull from Eachine in collaboration with ATOMRC, which is also known as SkyZone. So it's interesting to see so many Eachine and SkyZone collaborations, and SkyZone is making a lot of different aircraft now, FPV planes and wings, and now their own version of a Cinewhoop in collaboration with Eachine. So this is cool. It does have the ATOMRC F4 flight controller on here, and I believe it's an F4. We'll go back through the specs on the bench here after we do this flight test, but I'm at the field and hanging out. You know what? It's crazy windy today. It is probably the windiest outside today in this past several months, and it figures that look what I have to fly today, a Cinewhoop. Yeah, so this is very low profile. You can see that the prop guards on here, it's almost like the poor man's Protek 35. Am I right? So it is a real thin profile around the edge. And when I took off, I was expecting all kinds of crazy vibes and jitters, and I thought this thing was gonna fly like crap. And I mean, I do honest reviews, so I have to I have to tell you that it flies good. It flies good. It flies better than good. It flies great. And if you're a beginner, you can start out in stability mode. When you go to acro, the acro tune on here, it's actually really soft. So I'm doing some mild freestyle with this. I did some over the tree dives back down to the grass, and guess what? No wash out with all of this wind today. So hopefully you can see my enthusiasm for this quad. It is a 3-inch sort of carbon, sort of hybrid plastic. I don't even know what this stuff is right here, what this plastic is, but I will tell you, it's bendy. My only concern about this product is that these feel really bendy and they feel like they're gonna break. However, the price is pretty good. You do get SkyZone goggles in the box. The Cobras are just about out of stock everywhere right now because everybody wants them. You get a set of Cobras in the box. You also get the Eachine transmitter with it. It has the switches already set up and ready to go. So if you're a guy who doesn't want to play around with Betaflight, you have all of this set up ready to go with. You can fly a 4S 850 on here. With a 4S 1550, I'm getting 10 minutes flight time with this guy. So that's also really good. It will freestyle, it will cinema, it will fly 10 minutes on a 4S 1550 battery. And it will carry a GoPro. So you can do all the cinema you want. It also has a screw on the very top. It has a screw point here for adding on some type of GoPro mount. Maybe they're gonna come out with all three. Maybe a D-case GoPro, maybe the Insta360 Go, and maybe you can put your full-size GoPro on here. But either way, this power system will handle it. And one of the reasons it has such a long flight time is, check out the motors. These motors are not giant 2207 or 2208 motors or 2306. These are 2004 motors, 2004 motors. I don't know the KV yet on them, but I'll tell you when we get back to the bench. But adding the 2004 motors on here with the 3-inch prop combo makes this guy fly a long time. So I'm expecting a fairly low KV on this, which makes this more of a cruiser. But you can also use this as a freestyle basher and learning how to fly freestyle. This will power loop, and it will tree dive. It will do just about any of the mild freestyle maneuvers that you will want to do as a beginner. So it has a lot of great stuff on here. I cranked up the VTX to 500 milliwatt in the back with my Rush Cherry antenna right here. XT30 ready to go. Top mount battery making a nice CG point here for really nice flips and rolls, and it just flew fantastic. So yeah, I can say it. I know there's gonna be some haters out there, but yeah, it's the best RTF Cinewhoop 3-inch out there. So I can say that because there aren't any. So yeah, Eachine and ATOMRC have started something here with this brand new 3-inch ready to fly kit with SkyZone goggles and everything you need to fly. So great price point, and we'll see how she holds up. We will show you the flight test now. We'll come back into the bench and I'll show you this poor man's Protek 35 on the bench. Here we go. All right, guys, it's time to do the flight test now. My first impression of this quad, oh my God. I took off and it was insanely windy. Look at the trees blowing. I thought that this was going to be a terrible flight experience, and the kit to me didn't seem impressive out of the box. I got the box and I thought, oh no, here we go. Another cheap RTF, and this is not gonna be a lot of fun. This is gonna be kind of chintzy and fragile and weak, and it's gonna fly like crap. And when I took off for the first time and flew around the field, I realized that the tune on here is really good out of the box. And there's no fiddling with Betaflight to get everything set up. So you don't have to really set it up with the USB cable and fiddle with everything. The switches are all set up for you in multiple flight modes, and it's really stable in all this wind, which is crazy. So right here is an example of kind of how stable it actually is. I flew into the van and I was gonna fly out the other side, but I realized I forgot to open the slide door, so I'm stuck in here. And in stability mode, I had enough sort of precision with the quad to be able to get back out. And in other instances with little micros, I've gone in there and kind of got trapped and crashed before because I bumped the wall, flight controller freaked out, and I crashed. Now I'm in acro mode, and I gotta tell you, man, this little guy will freestyle. And the good news is there's no washout with this quad, which is kind of crazy. Washout means tumble, and flight controller freak out. It causes a momentary freak out of the whole quad. It will flip and roll by itself when it has that freak out. So I'm able to do flips and rolls really smooth, and the rates on the tune are dumbed down a little bit, so they are softened up for you guys as beginners. When you're first trying acro, what usually happens, you flip into acro and you immediately crash. So I usually tell guys, if you're first trying out acro, get way up in the air, flip into acro, and if you feel like you're going straight down to crash, flip back into stability and it will auto level the quad. So that's kind of a trick. Just keep that in mind. It always looks better on paper. So one thing to think about there. It's hard to remember, but if you can do that, flip that switch back to stability, you can save your aircraft from going in. And you know, my only big beef with this whole ready to fly combo is that I feel like the prop guards are not going to be super sturdy for you guys. That's my honest opinion on the prop guards, but I know they are replaceable, so you can get new prop guards. They're going to be super cheap, and parts should be available for this guy because this one should sell like crazy. And look at the wind right here. I mean, the wind is just pushing the whole quad sideways, and I flip back into stability mode here, and I'm trying to fight that wind to get through this gap right here. But look how good the camera looks. Right there, I rolled around the tree. I actually pushed into it so hard that I rolled around it. And some of the other flight controllers will actually kind of freak out when they hit something and it'll throw the tiny whoop into the ground. This one is much larger and it doesn't have flight controller freak out. And there I'm just able to squeak through right there. So there's a lot of precision and control in the stability mode on this quad. So I love it in acro mode. It feels like something like GEP RC would have came out with as far as the tune on here and the way it flies. I would never guess I was flying an Eachine quad right here. So the Sky Zone Exceed flight controller, the F4 AIO on here is doing great. Really nice. I believe there's 35 amp ESCs on this quad as well. So 4S all day and plenty of power with the 2004 motors. I feel like the KV on them is high enough that we have plenty of power for freestyle and boosts, but they're not like 2306 motors, which will eat up the battery and only give you about a 6-minute flight time. Way more power, but you're sacrificing flight time. And I feel like Cinewhoops, everybody wants them to fly a long time because at the end of the day, mostly we want to be making cinema videos with this quad, but man, it's fast if you want it to be. And look at that, nice smooth rolls, no freak out on that dive just then. And that dive really should have put that flight controller in freak out mode and had it tumble. With this type of airframe, tumble is just so common in most of those Cinewhoops, the 3-inch category. And again, as far as loudness goes, it's half as loud as a regular 3-inch Cinewhoop with the super deep ducts. So this one has a super thin profile on it, kind of like the poor man's Protek 35 type of frame prop guards. They're more like prop guards, not ducts. So there's another dive toward the ground. I should have had tumble right there. Even in some of the more expensive Cinewhoops out there right now, you still get tumble in a tree dive. Most of the Cinewhoop in the 3-inch category can't do a straight vertical dive at the ground without some kind of blowout in the flight controller. So it tracks really well, long flight times, great tune, softened up beginner rates on here for learning how to fly acro. So this will be a good acro trainer as well. Just so much good stuff wrapped up in this bundle that surprised me. Because honestly, I didn't think that it was gonna do this well. And there's a little bit of breakup there between that tree and the goggles. And I'm recording from the Cobra LITE goggles. They're sitting on the ground next to me. And here I'm back into stability mode, and I just wanted to see how smooth and between these trees I could fly and around, just to show you again how windy it is. And I'm being pushed around a lot by the wind, but I'm still able to track quite well. It looks like there's no wind out here today. It's kind of amazing. So with a GoPro in here and some hyper smooth, I mean, this is the FPV camera view, and like no vibes at all. I mean, if you guys see some vibes, please like comment down below and say, hey, I see some jello or some vibes in this quad's FPV camera, but I don't see any. And here I'm kind of playing around like I would with a micro size tiny whoop. I'm going under my van. It has a really low profile to this quad. It's really small and flat, only a couple inches high off the ground if it was sitting on the table. So you can kind of skirt under things without a GoPro on there. And I believe even with a GoPro, I can make it under the van. It's just a little perch on top of the van, having fun. So the versatility with this, I wish that I had something like this when I was first starting out. This controller will also bind to other quad later. If you want to fly this on something else, the T8 can bind up to other receivers. And it might have to be, I believe it has to be an FR Sky Tyrannus, something like an XM Plus receiver. I'm not sure if it'll do the RXSR or not. We'd have to confirm that, but if you know that it will, make a comment down below for the community. But very fun, affordable, everything all in one box. I mean, yeah, and freestyle cinema, great tunes, softened up rates. This is like perfect for most guys getting into FPV. This is a great bundle. And she's fast when you want her to be. So you can slow her down, you can speed it up. It flips and rolls without washout. I mean, how much better could this review have gone today? And with all of this wind, the fact that it performs like this in this wind, I've reviewed hundreds, if not thousands of FPV race drones and quads in the past 7 years on my channel. And I have had a lot of them have problems in wind. And I'm speaking about Cinewhoops. I'm not talking about race quads. Race quads, typically 5-inch race quad, don't care about the wind. And this one doesn't seem to care about the wind either. So that's really good. And this is way up high. This is a good test for jello. And I don't see a lot of vibes, even with that wind up there. Put this full screen on your TV and go back and look at that, because it's looking good. That's where I usually do a jello test or vibes test, way up high, just to see how much vibes are in the main camera. And that's mostly what I'm gonna show you guys too in my reviews, is the main camera. So you can really, truly, honestly see what a tune is like. And this one, it's really good, and I'm happy about this one. So let's go back to the bench. All right, guys, there it is on the bench. And you know, I'm not impressed with the box. The box looked kind of, like they could have put more time into the graphics, but they wanted to make it super simple. A lot of times Eachine stuff does come to you kind of looking like this. So the box is not overly impressive. And I thought, this looks like a big box of crap. So it actually isn't, which is kind of cool. So the TA controller in here, Sky Zone goggles, and this guy, which flies great. So I'm happy to see that these guys are teaming up. This flight controller on here from SkyZone. It's just giving us a little better tune and quality control here. So I believe these are also motors from the ATOMRC brand. So, and even though they have Eachine on the side of the goggles, these are SkyZone goggles. The strap in my box actually says SkyZone on them, so kind of funny. There's a QR code here for going to the Eachine website, and then on the other side you have a really big QR code for the ATOMRC website, and the world's largest spec print on the side of the entire box here. So cool. It does say that the drone has the ATOMRC F405 mini flight controller. It's a 20x20 stack, 30 amp ESCs, not 35 like I thought, but 2 to 4S. So you could start out flying this quad on 3S if you want. Something like a 3S 850 milliamp battery would be great. You'll probably get about 6 minutes. If you want to get a longer flight time, you could do a 1550. The motors on here, that's the secret sauce. 2004 2700 kV. Those are nice because typically with a 3-inch, I've seen companies doing 2306 on there, which is great for power, but seem to be causing some overpower into the frame and causing washout and tumble in the flight controller. So too much power, there's kind of a give and take here. So they seem to have it nice size down, and that gives us a longer flight time. Gives us that 10 minutes plus on a 1550 battery. They also put the ATOMRC 500 milliwatt mini VTX on there, so that's nice. Crank it up to 500. You can go miles out on 500. So the Razor Nano is a great camera. It looks pretty good. I'm not upset at that at all. And 90mm Jim Fan props. They have the Cobra L goggles in there. Not the highest resolution, but they do look nice and bright. They have the diversity receiver in there, which I believe is the steady view receiver. So that's a good value. And it does DVR for recording your videos down to MJPEG. So that's super awesome. Those are nice quality videos that work on Mac or PC. So 18650 option inside the goggles too. And I don't believe my goggles came with an 18650. So one thing to think about there. And the radio itself, it will only bind to D8 receivers, it looks like. So I don't know if that's changeable. It might be to D16, but it's not going to have miles of range on there for D8. D8 is going to take you out maybe a couple football fields out before you lose signal, but this one is set up to drop to the ground. So there's the quad itself, and low profile. Like I mentioned before, very low profile prop guards. There's the 2004 motors. Those are looking pretty good. I'll just zoom into those for you. They're Eachine branded here. And it's printed really small on there, 2004. Maybe it's over on this side. It looks like they have ATOMRC on the other side, which is cool. So this is a team joint effort. And look at the coils inside this motor. They are nice and thick. They're not chintzy coils inside the stator of this motor. That's really good news. So the motor is not a cheap motor. 2-bolt configuration on that prop. And these props, they are good. They are really good. And here is the frame itself. It's kind of a hybrid carbon combo frame. And you can see this plastic looks a little bit rough. It's not super smooth plastic, and it does have a lot of flex to it. So this is what I was worried about, that it might have a little too much flex, and goes this way as well. You can hit the prop on a hard strike, but that's gonna happen on any type of prop guard out there. But they did hold in place not quite well, and don't hit the props during takeoff. Some of the other quads that I reviewed recently had some problems with that. And it looks like we have 8-bolt top plate release to get to your stack in there, and that's your F405 in there. It has little tiny windows on both sides. So on this side, you can get to a USB-C type port. So this is a much newer flight controller with that. And on the bottom, we have the unibody frame, 4 bolts in each motor. And this unibody on the bottom makes it quite sturdy and a little bit lighter instead of having replaceable arms. But most of the Cinewhoops I've seen don't really rock some in replaceable arms unless they're the smaller 2.5-inch class. But nice and easily accessible flight controller for beta flight, OSD, you can change everything. We've got an XT30 back here, and we've got some pretty long diversity receiver antennas sticking out back here. So this should give you a little longer range than your typical D8 since these are so long. If they were inside the frame, probably a couple of football fields, but I'm expecting a little better than a couple of football fields with those. And this is the Rush Cherry antenna. I've seen this one before. This one works great. I wish it was a little tiny taller, if I could be honest. Maybe it was like this tall, but this keeps the profile nice and low. So at your battery height, you're about the same height as your antenna, which in some instances can cause some breakup when you do turn the quad around and you have the battery in front of the antenna. So that's one thing to think about there, but it's a cool looking quad, right? And they have number 5 on the bottom of this quad for some reason. You can see the 4 bolts here, and that's for the 20x20 stack and the 500 milliwatt VTX in the very back. You could upgrade this to HD if you wanted to, because this will fit the Cadex Vista in there. It would be cool if they had an HD version of this for DJI guys. But again, if you got this one and you wanted to upgrade and go to the DJI goggles, you could absolutely do that. So this is the pair of goggles that comes along with it, and these are really great. They also come with foam that goes on the front faceplate. I can't see in these very well myself, and plus I'm kind of spoiled with my binocular goggles. So these are great beginner goggles to start out with, and look at that. The strap does say Sky Zone on there, so Sky Zone on the side of this as well. Yours might come to you with Eachine on the side. They might have changed this right here, but these are the Cobra L's, and they are Cobra LITE. This is the steady view module up top. You can kind of bend your antennas out like this when you're flying, give you a pretty good reception. You've got dial wheels here for accessing the menus, and you have power button on this side, the menus here, and your record buttons on the left-hand side. And you should have about 48 different channels on this one, 8 different bands. But the screens look great on these, so everybody wants Sky Zone goggles these days. They are also some of the most reliable goggles out there in the FPV market. And this is your T8 transmitter. Arm switch I set up here on SA. My mode switch I set up here in Betaflight. I changed things around. They had the arm switch on this side, which I didn't like. I wanted it to be on my index finger on my left hand. So that's usually how I do there. I do switch for arm switch modes. I usually do beeper, and I do flip recovery after crash. That's called turtle mode. And also in the box, guys, you do get a charger, which is great. So you can charge up to 4S battery with this. If you have 3S to start, you can also charge 3S on here. This is the HTRC charger. I've seen this one before. A very simple charger to use. It has 3 balance ports here for 2S, 3S, and 4S. That is cool. And you can switch it from LiPo to LIFE to LIHV. So don't charge your LiPos as either of these. Make sure that your LiPo is charging to this one. You don't want this LiPo charging to LIHV. That will overcharge each cell and actually have it explode on the bench. So you have to be really careful with LiPo chargers. But it also came with a cable in the box for hooking up to the wall. And it looks like I have a non-US style cable. You can get a converter for this on Amazon for about $5 and have it ready for the AC outlet. But one thing to think about for US buyers, that just plugs in just like that, and you're off and charging your batteries. Now, one thing I did not get in this RTF was any batteries. So that's one thing to take in consideration. You'll need to buy some batteries for this. So the batteries I'm gonna suggest for this guy, for around a 6-minute flight time, you can do the 4S 850 milliamp, and it fits nicely up here. There's a large enough strap for running a 4S 1550. I had no problem putting my 1550 up there, and that one will get you a nice flight time of around 10 to 12 minutes. So I feel like this one is a really good buy. I'm happy with this. I don't have a lot of bad and negative to talk about with this one. I don't think that the advertising is super great on the box, and the design and all of that. It's not super fancy, but it kind of surprised me. So this was one of the ones that surprised me,
and it flies damn good. So you will have fun flying this one, and I actually kind of think it looks kind of cool too. Flies good, great tune, smooth, and no tumble or washout on the freestyle maneuvers. Cinema or freestyle, this thing is pretty much ready to rock out of the box. And lastly, you guys can use, I believe there's a built-in 18650 in here as well. So this is also programmable in Betaflight. You can change things around. And the charge port is here, USB-C charge port, and it looks like you could use it with a simulator too. So FPV simulator ready, which is pretty cool. So I think it's a pretty good kit for around $300. It's definitely a better value than something like the Gap RC Tiny Go. It's just a little more for what you're paying for. And 3-inch class is totally different than micro class. So this little baby will rip. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed this honest review on the Seagull, and it's gotta be one of the best new RTFs out there in the 3-inch category. Matter of fact, the only one that I know about in the 3-inch category as far as Cinewhoops are concerned. But thanks again for watching my reviews, guys. I'm Justin Davis. Stay humble and be kind to others out there. And please do subscribe. I will see you on the next one. You can check out the links down below for this and my battery choices.